So this lecture is in fact a continuation of the earlier discussion. So I continue in that spirit. Just a minute, sir. So I take this lecture as a continuation of the earlier discussions, which actually produced very important insights. The question answers also are very fruitful and helped us in understanding the problem in a greater way. Now, coming specifically to Amitav Ghosh, who has also written a good number of sci-fi, but there are also something else that he wrote, different kinds of fiction. Therefore, we need to give attention to the oeuvre of Amitav Ghosh as a whole. You know that earlier writings like the Shadow Lines is totally different from the latest work like the Ghost or the Hungry Cat. So there are different kinds of fictional works that he had written, and each work demands a new kind of response. I will be talking about Amitav Ghosh as a whole, but with special focus on the latest work, the Ghost Eye, which was published in 2026, this year in fact. The title of the Ghost Eye is very, very interesting. And the first thing we ask ourselves, what does the word actually mean? Does it mean really the eyes that are spiritual, that are beyond our capacities to see something with that kind of an eye? So we need to focus on, probe into the title itself, and the title, as I always say, is always important. Like the cover page. The cover page gives us insights into the text. It's a kind of pre-text. And therefore, the ghost eye is also a kind of a pretext. Please remember that there is no the, definite article the, before ghost eye, which suggests that it is not any particular ghost eye. It is an eye that belongs to a class, to a group, to a category. Ghost eye, simply put, is the eye that can see beyond the reality. Something that normal human beings cannot do, cannot see these things. And that is why Amitav Ghosh gave special. There are some discussions within the novel itself. I will come to that. But before that, I will ask you to ponder over the title itself. something, he's speaking of something that not all ordinary human being can see. So seeing is important. Seeing means examining. Seeing means probing. Probing into the past, probing into the future, present, and also probing into the future. He speaks of the ghost eye. He explains the term ghost eye in on page number 288. And he says that ghost eye is a kind of tool that some of the characters, one particular character, wants to utilize. It wants to utilize the group of ghost eyes, the category of ghost eyes, in order to address the environmental problem that occurs in the Sundarbans. Because the Sundarban is the target of the corporate sectors. A power station is being sought to be established there. It comes much later in the text, but earlier, what the author, what the speaker actually speaks about is about a totally different thing. It talks about rebirth of a character called Borsha. The spelling begins with V, Varsha. In Bengali, it is Borsha, monsoon. And this character, much later, towards the end of the book, assumes a name. She leaves her name, Varsha, and assumes the new name, Monsoon, which, I'm sorry, monsoon suggesting Varsha. So the novel actually alternates between two time periods. One is 1960s and the other is around 1920, when the pandemic has struck the world. It is global, planetary in its effect. And the conversation that takes place between these two time periods. There are dialogues between these two time periods. So time is not separated. Time is interlinked. And that interlink is used in order to promote certain kind of discourse. In the beginning, the description is given on a Marwari family who lives in southern India. And this Marwari family is basically Jains by faith. And they are vegetarian. But suddenly in the family, the newest member, a 3-year-old girl, Varsha, wants to eat fish. And therefore, you can imagine the furor, the confusion that happens in the family itself. The family refuses to give the girl any fish simply because fish cannot enter the house. It is a 3-story house. And Southern Avenue, if you remember, is a space that occurs again and again in Amitav Ghosh's novel. In Shadow Lines, which is probably in your syllabus, you will come across Southern Avenue and Bull Park area, a posh area in South Calcutta. Okay? So the elsewhere also he refers to South Calcutta and North Calcutta, but South Calcutta is always in focus. The younger child of the old pater familiars is Abhay Gupta. And the paterfamilias is called Horihar Gupta, in short, HH. And the daughter, Varsha, as I said, in the young age, she was known as Varsha, but later she came to be known as Munmun Abhay Putri. So it is a taken name, taken later on. It's not the usual name. But actually, it refers back to the original name, which is Varsha, daughter of Abhay Gupta, Abhay Putri, that is all. Now the case, it is a case now, the case is given to Shoma Ghosh, a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, but a psychologist. And this psychologist character probes into the case. And you must have found in the meantime, those who have read some of the novels of Amitav Ghosh, that Amitav Ghosh is a kind of investigative journalist, investigative novelist, if you can adopt a word, a phrase like that. And the character here, Shoma Ghosh, launches her own investigation. And this character interviews Barsha, interviews the family members, interviews others. She also gets in contact with American psychologists, and she probes into the entire case along with the other cases. And ultimately, she finds out that this girl ultimately speaks of a place in the Sundarban where she was known in a different name in her earlier life. So this, along with Varsha, Shoma and Varsha's father, Avoy, and some other characters visit Lucibari in the Sundarbans. If you remember, you have come across the name Lucibari in the Hungry Tide, which is again probably in your syllabus. So it is a revisit of Lucibari of the Sundarbans. Now, the Sundarbans, they go there and find Sundarban, as you know, is a unique place. Today there is an island, tomorrow there is no island because it has been swept. It is a flexible kind of place. Okay? So people always live in tenterhooks. They are always afraid, not only of nature, but also another form of nature in the form of tiger. There's an entire village called tiger widows, where the tiger widows live. It's a unique place socially, culturally, from the point of view of nature, ecologically, and it is a very sensitive area. And this place ultimately assumes importance because activists point out that the businessmen and the industrialists, the corporate sectors, they descend on the place in order to uh, uh, establish new kind of industries. And that is why activists are very active there. In the Gan Island, the Sundarban is described very, very appositely. It is called the frontier, where commerce and the wilderness look each other directly in the eye. And this basically is the subject matter of Ghosh study. Although it focuses on Varsha and the predicament of the family and the investigative journalism that Shoma Ghosh ultimately enters into, but ultimately it shifts to the Sundarban as a site of environmental struggle. A group of people there want to seek environmental justice, protect the place against the invasion of the corporate sectors. And as I said, power sector is being, power station is being established there, sought to be established there. It has cleared the government's permission, and there is an island in this place where the power station will be established. Now, the activists, very, very interestingly, they say that the usual kind of resistance does not work everywhere. So, Soma, you may bring out a procession, you may write novels, but nothing comes, nothing is useful. So, the activists think of a different platform. Makar Sankranti was coming, and Makar Sankranti is the occasion where people from all over India comes over to the Sagar Island and the nearby places, and there are this crowd which will be this crowd will be available, and during that period the struggle has to be the activities has to be launched, and it is called eruption. Iruption, not eruption. Eruption. Amitav Ghosh differentiates between two words. Eruption is inward. Eruption with E is outward. It comes out. And eruption with I goes inward into a particular space. In ecology, it is a word, it's a key word suggesting a mass migration into certain places. So technically, he's correct. Amitav Ghosh is correct. He discards the word eruption and prefers eruption beginning with the I. So Makar Sankranti will be the time when he organizes a, a kind of movement there on that particular island. That particular island is said popularly supposed to be a sacred place because there are ruins, and the ruins are rumored to be that of the Manasa Devi. So it was supposedly a Manasa temple. Any kind of corporate action will be a kind of sacrilege. So this kind of activism is resorted to, for which the characters, the activists needed the help of the ghost eyes. Okay, because the ghost eyes can see what has gone before, what is going to happen in future, and it can help bringing new dimensions to the movement. So Tipu is a character who belongs to that place. He leads the movement along with uh, other place, and Tipu himself is a kind of ghost eye because in Gan Island he was bitten by a snake. Okay, if you remember, he was bitten by a snake, as a result of which Gun Island was published in 2019, and this book is published in 2026. See that the Gun Island and this book, Ghost Eye, are interlinked in a sense. Okay, and you see that as a result of the snake bites, he sees flashes which allows him to see before what has happened before and what might come in future. So he is also a kind of ghost guy. But as he says, these flashes where I see things and hear things, I can't control it because I have never had any proper training, which is why I am pretty low down the ghost eye ladder. So there is a ladder in, of the ghost eye as well, some more powerful than the others. Borsha is more powerful than Tipu. And there are other characters also. I'll come to that. So Tipu tells Dinu, the narrator, we have people like me, cops, ghost eyes. You know what Native Americans say about us? And this is important. They say ghost guys can see two worlds. One of them is ordinary, one that everyone can see, but the other one that is just for us ghost guys, just for us ghost guys. So there are two planes of seeing. One is seen by everybody, but there are people. There is another plane which belongs, which is privileged to one particular group of ghost guys. Now, bole লাভ নেই, but because they will have to catch trains and buses, I suppose. So it's quite late. So in this particular, so one culture is related to another culture. The Indian culture, the Bengali culture is connected with the Native American cultures. So that is what characterizes Ghosh's novels. They are cosmopolitan in nature. They do not just speak of the hegemonic groups, they also speak of the groups that are marginalized, where our eyes do not go. And he is an anthropologist by training, and therefore he is habituated with investigation, and he can link together different cultures. And that is the most important thing that Amitav Ghosh can do. You think of the shadow lines, you think of other cultures, other novels, and you'll find in each and every novel, he is very, very cosmopolitan. He is not held back in one country. He spreads himself into different spaces of the world. Tipu, along with his friend Rafi, brings together ghost eyes such as Dev. Dev is again a disciple of a Burmese hermit known as Sindonath, and Borsha to unsettle the efforts of the industrialists. The industrialists are bent on an war of extermination. Okay, think of the uh, uh, you go into the text, it's this particular text, and you'll find that the author and Tipu in particular, the voice of Tipu, says that the world is facing environmental crisis. And what happens is that the rich people, they're preparing themselves, they're storing materials, food and everything in lonely islands where they will shift when the disaster strike. The common people will die. The poor people who do not have that kind of capacity, they will die. And therefore, in the meantime, they can do whatever they like. They can explore mines. They can do all kinds of profitable jobs and enterprises. And in the meantime, the, the ultimate time will come, arrive. And when the time arrives, they will retreat to those islands where they will live equipped. This is an argument given by Tipu, and it is his war against this kind of a people. So they want to unsettle the efforts of the industrialists. Their goal was to stop the inauguration of a coal-burning power plant that a giant energy corporation was planning to build on an island in the Sundarban, the island that I have spoken of. This power plant is to be built in this island that has a wind structure believed to have been a temple of Manasha Devi. This space is considered sacred. The building of the power plant will be an act of sacrilege as well as a desecration of the environment. Tipu says, and I quote, if a whole bunch of ghost eyes got together and Borsha was there to take the lead, who knows what might happen? So they are waiting for that eruption in the Sundarbans during the Makar Sankranti. But in the meantime, a case is filed at Calcutta High Court on the rights of nature based on the principles of the rights of nature movement of 2017. In 1917, in 1971, a law professor of the University of California published an article. Its arguments were rivers, forests, mountains, and other such entities should be legally recognized as sentient beings, something that Joyita and Anindya both spoke about. And these are the entities that are endowed with rights of their own. Equestrian activists in 2010 succeeded in enshrining this principle in their constitution. The constitution recognizes these beings as these entities as sentient beings. They have a right to exist, to be maintained, to be restored when damaged. So on this principle, there was a file because they also sought the help of the lawyers. Some lawyers also helped. This book is about this. Okay, basically about this. This book is about the struggle, and the struggles seems to have been very, very successful. So in the first part of the book, what happens is that the focus is entirely on Borsha and similar other human beings. One is there who works in Mashi's, the speaker's Mashi's house, who has that kind of ghost type. Another is Borsha. And there are some other characters who are also Borshas. This collaboration between the Borshas ultimately makes the movement successful. So, but this success comes in the later half of the book. Now, this much about the book. Many of you may not have read the book. That is why I spoke about the book. And this actually directly addresses the environmental problem, environmental disaster, and the resistance. What is most important is the resistance. So the eco-criticism that we study in our syllabus, in our classroom, I feel is deficient in tackling this kind of problem posed by environmental disaster simply because eco-criticism is obsessed with reading on the texts. Okay, mainly literary texts. We need to go beyond the literary text in order to spread awareness, number one, and number two, launch movements, resistance movements against all kinds of activities. In another paper written recently, I talked about how the local can be linked to the global. The charity begins at home. So therefore, our lessons of environmentalism should begin at home and with small steps which can be linked to the global planetary kind of activism. So that is one important aspect where the people individually plan, but they also enlist the support of other people so that they can successfully carry a movement, launch a movement, which becomes ultimately successful. Now, while reading the book, uh, I it was a personal kind of reading, this particular book, but I thought of the other books as well. The especially the Shadowlands. Okay, Shadowlands, if you remember, uh, is without any without any definite article, suggesting that it is not about any particular shadowland. Okay, imagined line. It is also in plural, shadow lines, suggesting there is not one single shadow line, but there are many kinds of shadow lines, which we should try to overcome. Shadow Lines is very important novel, but it talks about basically partition. It is usually regarded as a partition novel, and the border is a metaphor here, and it basically speaks about border. But it actually uh, 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 explores a kind of socio-cultural background, environmental background that is very, very useful for us. So when I was reading this particular book, Ghost Time, I was remembering that I was born in 1956, the year Amitav Ghosh was also born. So there are some similarities between us because we have seen many of the events that took place after 1956. And also, I lived in the same area for a few years, maybe 7, 8 years, Southern Avenue, in a place called Southern Avenue. Uh, I lived very near Southern Avenue. It is called Lake Avenue. Within 2 minutes, you can reach Southern Avenue. And we had to cross Southern Avenue every now and then. And if you read Ghost Tide and Shadow Lines, you will find references to shadow places like the one corner of one corner of Southern Avenue and the other corner of the Southern Avenue, which converges on the Gold Park. It is the same Gold Park where 3D, a character, very important character in the Shadowlands, used to do addas along with the ruffians, so-called ruffians. Okay, so I can reimagine the space. Okay, where events took place and where the protagonist, along with Kamma, lived, and what kind of activities they resorted to, and how the young child used to go to the lake, which was the place Amitav Ghosh explores. I too had explored the whole place. So the space is very known to me. So I responded to Ghost type very, very personal. And as I responded to the shadow lines, I'm sorry, shadow lines. So this is one aspect which is very important for me to explore. Another thing is that during that period, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, I too experienced certain kind of events and happenings which took place during the 60s and the 70s. Okay, and some of you might have experienced the same. For example, uh, Ghost Eye speaks of load shedding, power cuts, okay, which was the reality in the 1970s, okay? And we spent our reading periods with oil lamps, okay, during the night. So you see, it was and power cuts happens now every now and then in in Southern Avenue area in this particular book. And moreover, there are references to Lake Market, Buri Art Market, Hindustan Motors, Monty, the Dr. Monty, husband of Shoma, who bought an ambassador car uh, during the period in the 1960s. And you remember that ambassador, the Hindustan Hind motto was it had a registered office in North Calcutta or Central Calcutta. So the map, you can map the place, you can map the time. So we, the people of my generation, can respond to these texts very, very personally. In fact, most of the texts are so personal. The personal experiences of Amitav Ghosh is invested in the characters and in the happenings, that these are very important kind of things. I hinted that Amitav Ghosh is and is an anthropologist, and he also worked as a uh, uh, journalist. And one of the journal uh, articles that I read was about a project that a hotelier was very much eager to, 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 to take place in the Sundarbans. And he investigated the hotelier's plans and wrote about that in a newspaper article, as a newspaper article. So that kind of investigative journalism is very much found in all his novels. There are investigation clues, there are problems, research problems that the characters actually pursue, and there are in each and every novel, there are uh, this kind of actions. In this character also, uh, research problems in this novel also, research, I will finish very soon, just 5 or 10 minutes. Um, at the heart of each fiction, as I said, there's a central issue to be pursued, a research problem to be precise, and a kind of investigative journalism slash research based on archival research and empirical studies, involving in most cases visits to archives and field visits, and also interviews. When Amitav Ghosh was asked in an interview, Ari, what is the genre of your book? Uh, the latest book. He said that I don't think about genres while I write the book. I am focused on the components of the materials that I will use there. And I let things happen. So you see, he was not much concerned about genres, and therefore, what happens that his novels are genre bending. Okay, therefore, you can sometimes feel that he is actually writing a journalist kind of writing. It is journalism and nothing else. Sometimes it appears that he is writing a scientific treatise, a treatise on some disease, for example, that happens in ghost time. And sometimes you can think of, he might write about particular kinds of animals, fishes, for example. And there are pages after pages that he has researched in ghost eyes, which these pages are devoted to different kinds of fishes. So all these are results of his intense research. So right from the beginning, I will close actually. Right from the beginning, you will find that he has started writing some books, some novels, which are either on border or on foreign visits or on diasporic experience or a science fiction, or some. He actually talked about his novels can also be seen from 2 points of view. He There is a oceanic turn, an aquatic turn in his novels, and there is also a Sundarban turn in his novels, and sometimes both these turns converge. So, in a sense, if you see the entire oeuvre of Amitav Ghosh, you will find that he's traveling. He's moving from one kind of novels to another. And the Ibis trilogy is entirely on indenture indenture migration. And you can hardly find any other writer who has written about indenture right. There is Peggy Mohan, for example, who has written Jahajin, and there are some other novels, but they are not wholly, entirely about the indenture. And Amitav Ghosh has written 3 books on indenture, Ibis trilogy on indenture. So towards the end, he has come uh, down to the aquatic turn, which can be more specifically is said as the oceanic turn, and and the hungry tide actually leads to the oceanic turn, and the oceanic turn is uh, embodied in the ibis trilogy. Okay, and also interestingly, you will find the Sundarban towns, and the Sundarban towns you will find in 3 hungry tide, for example, Ghan Island, for example, and the latest novel, The Ghost Type, for example. So these are the latest kind of turns that you can find in his later novels. So Amitav Ghosh is probably coming full circle. And with this comment, I would like to end my lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madhura, for this is first lecture, I guess, on Ghost Live. I don't know if there has been a part of review of Ghost Live. Jane, thanks a lot for this lecture, and probably this is the first review lecture of Ghost Live. I don't know whether any reviews have been published on Ghost Live either. There are some. Um, when you talk about, Amitav Ghosh, he is using different kinds of content as well as different kinds of style to a certain extent in all his novels. Starting from the first one, The Circle of Reason, to The Ghost Lie. Um, my question is, where would you place the glass box? I mean, you had spoken about the Sundarban and you've also included the concept of the uh, uncanny, and that's the term for dichotomia and the uncanny. So, Last Palace, it's talking about INA and history. So where exactly in all his novels, scientific novels, I understand Circle of Reason is one, Capital Chromosome is one, more or less, journalistic flavor of writing is coming through. Shadow Lines is talking about partitioning. So would you say that Shadow Lines and Glass Palace, they're taking up different, aspects of Indian history? That would be another segment which you would add on to your Sundarban and Oceanic narrative. That's my question.
Interesting question. Uh, but if you read all the novels, if you see most of the novels, you will find that a common element is travel. And one of the labels that is used uh, about the novel, about the book, about the novel is that it is a traveler. Okay. So Amitav Ghosh, as an anthropologist, was very much concerned about travel. And travel, in its etymological meaning, basically means moving away from the homeland traveling to the nearest places and coming back with the knowledge that something what happens in what happens elsewhere. So Amitav Ghosh, right from the beginning, is a traveler. In all his novels, there are travels as a common factor, common element. Here, the element of travel becomes the most important. It is a political, it is a commentary, it is a political commentary. It talks about the Rajas, the last Raja, last king of Myanmar, the Burmese king actually, who was forcibly taken away from uh, from Burma and sent to India towards the Western Ghat area in a very secluded place. And what happens in his families, and what kind of romances flowered, and what kind of migration took place during from uh, uh, East East Bengal to Burma, which was part of the British Empire at one point of time. And these different kinds of multi-layered narratives you will find there. To my mind, it is basically a kind of a travel. Okay. And
Traveling in Cambodia.
right. It can be coupled with that. Can be coupled with that. So, but it is out and out a fiction, a fictional narrative. So I think during this period, he was so much impressed by Burma, and as his family had, his father was in the foreign service probably, and Burma is a place where many of our forefathers actually went, stayed, lived there, and had their own experiences. Even Sharat Chandra lived for some time there. And there are lots of Bengali journals there which are being archived now. So you see, Burma is India in a sense. So what happened to Burma as a result of British expedition there? And how the people traveled from there and here, it is also a kind of refugee narrative. A refugee narrative which does not speak of the common people. A refugee narrative that speaks of the higher ups in the echelon of administration. Okay, so the king had to forcibly uh, go in exile. So I believe that it's a kind of the main focus is on travel related interest. That is the main focus.
I have another question. Do you think by any chance Bush was influenced by Garcia Marquez because he uses magic realism. He's used that in Gun Island, and he's using it again in heterochromia, constantly heterochromia, and the twist that he gives to it, stretching it to uncanny. Heterochromia, otherwise, it's a disease, supposed to be a disease, but he's using it in a different way as the sense of the uncanny so that a person can look into the future as well as into the past. So actually, he is entering into the realm of uncanny, bordering on magic realism, and the optimistic memory that might be there alongside with the futuristic memory. Right. So I wanted to comment on it. What exactly is he planning to do? What is going on? What do you think is going on in his mind? Because this is a new term. This is the new term in his writing, which is developed. In Ghostly, it becomes much more prominent.
That's again a very important question. And when you read Ghost at one point of time during the say the first part of the book is very realistic. It does not have any that kind of a style. Okay, uh, but towards the end, where it speaks of many kinds of unusual activities. For example, levitation. For example, different kinds of activities which cannot be believed. Okay, something happening, lightning appearing, drones appearing, and those drones appearing in the American sky, And those drones are not the usual drones sent by the army or anybody else. So they appear to be extraterrestrial. At least they are engineered by some some people who are uh, above human beings. Okay, so there they it appears like they leads like a favor. Okay, and sometimes we can link it with the living mountain to a certain extent. Heterochromia.
Not just the living mountain. As you said, I suddenly recalled, it was the end of the Gun Island, where all the dolphins come and there's a music, such music is going on, and it's a different kind of a plane of existence, which these people suddenly enter in. It's a kind of a
It's certainly
portal
yes,
that they
it's,
enter into.
it's certainly not realistic in the exact sense in the sense of the term. It is surrealistic sometimes, like a magic realism for sometimes. Yeah. So you are right. You are right. But that happens in the second part of the book, maybe.
Thank you so much, sir, for that intellectually stimulating and academically enriching deliberation. It was both insightful and inspiring. Uh, you highlighted Ghosh's remarkable contribution to literature, with special reference to, of course, Ghosh, emphasizing the themes of history, memory, and human interconnectedness. The lecture deepened our understanding of his unique storytelling and its relevance to contemporary society. Now, I would like to propose, I would like to invite Professor Sushanto Das to propose the vote of thanks.
So, good evening, everyone. It's an honor and wonderful opportunity, and that I would like to grab. Definitely, I will grab to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the entire Kuchbia College and especially Department of English, Kuchbia College. And we have come to the conclusion of the academic journey that we have today gone through. A discussion session on clarifying as a new genre of fiction writing and a special lecture on Amitav Ghosh by Professor Himadri Lahiri. So, first of all, uh, on behalf of the Department of English, Kujbia College, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Himadri Lahiri for his thought-provoking discussion and insightful lecture. His lucid analysis of climate fiction and literary world of Amitav Ghosh has greatly enriched our understanding of contemporary literature and his engagement with ecological concepts. And I also express our sincere thanks to Professor Joita Sengupta for her valuable insights and active participation in today's discussion. Her scholarly observations have added depth and new perspectives to the deliberations. And I would like to add something more here. Professor Joita Sengupta, she has always been a guiding star for us. And without her cooperation and helping hands, it was not possible for us to conduct such a discussion session and a special lecture session. And we are deeply grateful to Sizuri Collective Society for their collaboration and support in making this academic event possible. Our sincere thanks also go to the college administration for their constant encouragement and cooperation. And here I have to mention the name of my honorable principal, Dr. Pankaj Kumar Devnath. Without his, inspiration and cooperation, even it was not possible for us, especially for the Department of English, Kuchbehar College, to conduct such a discussion session. And a special word of thanks goes to all the faculty members of the Department of English, and not only Department of English and other departments as well, and research scholars, students, non-teaching staff, volunteers, and everyone who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to organize this program successfully. Your dedication and cooperation have made today's event a memorable academic experience. And finally, I extend my sincere thanks to all the members of the audience, especially my students, for your enthusiastic participation, thoughtful questions, and keen interest. And your presence has truly made this event meaningful and successful. And with sincere gratitude to everyone, I declare this program formally concluded. So thank you all and wish you a pleasant evening ahead. Thank you.